The Thought Lab. Right, morning Richie.
Morning.
How are you, bud?
Very good.
Welcome to the Thought Lab podcast. This is episode number 4. Again, you're in my wonderful studios, aka my home. It's so good to have you here.
Oh, it's always good, bro.
Finally, I mean, we've been talking about having you on the podcast for 2 months.
Yeah.
Before I even started the podcast.
Before you started, we were talking about it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had, obviously I've been speaking to a lot of people. And I mean, in addition to being a good friend and mentor of mine, you're actually my Brazilian Jiu Jitsu coach.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends and a lot of my work colleagues and a lot of associates know that, and they've all been asking, you know, when we're going to have Richie on. So you've got quite a massive following, which is really great, and everybody wants to hear about you. So I'll do a little bit of a summary, and I'd love to run through the summary, and I'd love you to correct me if I'm wrong. But first of all, in terms of who you are, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu coach. Mm-hmm. Mixed martial arts. I'd like to say the word expert.
Coach. Yeah.
Coach.
Yeah.
All right. But full
good,
mixed martial arts spectrum at Fight Fit Militia.
Yeah.
All right. And then Brazilian Jiu Jitsu coach for Gracie Barra Sunninghill.
Yes.
That's right. Gun expert.
Again, I don't think expert, but enthusiast. Yeah.
Gun enthusiast.
Yeah.
Gun, very passionate about guns.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Off-road adventurer.
Yeah. I love the outdoors. That's for sure.
Very much so. I mean, you recently went to
Botswana.
Oh, wow.
I had the opportunity to do a trip with one of my friends and sponsors, Anton from Auto Excellence. And he's actually, people don't know, he's one of the top photographers in the country in terms of sport and wildlife.
That's right. Doesn't he do all the photography, Anton Kaizen?
Yeah.
That's right. For EFC.
For EFC, that's what most people know him for.
Yeah.
But his wildlife stuff is actually out of this world.
And where could we find that?
He's got a Instagram and a website for it.
Okay.
So he does both genres. He does sport and wildlife.
Okay.
So that's why, I mean, the trip that we went on is once in a lifetime. I mean, National Geographic guys are up there, Discovery's up there.
And how long were you down there for?
I was only for a week. He usually goes for like 2 weeks. I went for a week with him.
But I mean, deepest, darkest Africa.
But the closest town's 4 hours away.
Really?
Yeah.
Staying in tents.
Staying in tents, take all food, all water, everything. You wake up in the morning, if there's lions outside your tent, you wait until they're gone.
That'll learn you.
Yeah. So it was amazing, yeah.
Dude, how fantastic, man. I remember phoning you when you just got back and you were just like, I'm so shattered. Hey?
Yeah. It's like liberating, but it is hard work. But it's amazing.
Do you know what it is? It shows you how reliant we are on this facade of a lifestyle that we've got.
And the instant gratification, like, you know, cooking the food, limitation of food, water, drinks, all of that type of stuff. Shower.
Yeah. Shower.
Yeah, exactly.
If the zombie apocalypse had, I think my biggest issue would be twofold. Number 1, shower, and number 2, ice cold sparkling water.
Yes.
That would be my issue.
Ice cold sparkling water in the bush after 3 days is amazing.
It's amazing. This morning when I asked you what water you wanted, I was like, sparkling was still you. You're like, sparkling. I was like, my buddy. Yes. Rory told me that it's not too good to put so much carbon in us.
Yeah.
But I love it, man. And I'm obviously doing the keto at the moment, so my issue is I'm drinking a lot of water, and just still water is so bland. So sparkling water is better, and then slightly some additive is even better. Yeah. That's a hell of an issue. And on that note, and to everybody who's listening, and to Richie, if I'm not the sharpest today, I've actually got keto flu. So, I mean, you know, I was with you yesterday, and man, battling, eh?
Yeah, I mean,
really
it's a
battling.
big change.
It's a massive change.
Yeah. But change for the good.
That's it. I'm willing to go through the pain now for the pleasure
later.
Let's see. You know, I mean, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't.
Trial and error. You don't know if you don't do it.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. So, you're also massively a coach and a mentor, and I don't mean coach in terms of your physical activities. I mean coach in terms of, and mentorship in terms of your mental support that you give your students. And I mean, I've seen that firsthand, and I've heard from your students. I've been in this game for a long time, and never in my life have I seen a bunch of students, and I'm discounting myself because I came in much later. Never in my life have I seen a bunch of students who are as loyal is the word, but it goes beyond loyalty, man. But loyal to you and look up to you, and just your word is bond. I mean, you talk about alpha male. You are the alpha male for a bunch of goddamn snakes.
Yeah.
Vipers and hyenas.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be I want to be a good leader. That's like my main theory in life, especially like the journey and the career and everything that I've chosen. I want to be coaches of coaches. I want to be a good mentor, a good leader. So every day, that's basically what I strive to be. And the only way to do that is to be true to yourself and true to your students. Transparency, and actually, biggest thing, care for people. So actually take an interest in your students.
Yeah.
You know, fixing problems, talking to them, not only just about martial arts, about everyday stuff and their personal life. And when it comes to athletes, it's actually more about knowing them personally before actually being a coach.
Yes.
Because if they trust you, they will listen to you. And the biggest thing with training athletes at an older level, not a younger level, is they have to trust you to believe in your word, because they're always going to question stuff, you know. And you have to as a good coach, you have to have the answers for a lot of things, but you just got to care about people, man. That's my biggest thing. Is if I care about my students and I provide them with the right information, everything else follows.
Absolutely. And that trust level is so important, you know. And I see it in terms of when I came into our relationship, in terms of you being my coach, you know, I looked at what you were doing, and I looked at the game plan you had, and our styles really matched for whatever reason. The way we think matched for whatever reason. Whatever I'm doing in business, I mean, what's interesting is when I'm doing business management mentorship or management consulting, I actually sit down and do a foundation series, and then I sit down with you and you're like, all right, we're going to do a jiu-jitsu foundation series, and it all just clicked, you know. But the moment I started believing in what you were telling me, and not discounting everything else to the point of being ignorant, because that would just be stupid. I mean, you've got to look at other games. But I basically sat there and thought, right, I'm going to throw myself at this because I believe in what you're doing. And I think that's what changed my games. And then, of course, my students in turn believe in me, I'd like to believe, and started doing the same. And all of a sudden, the level in the club started increasing. Exactly. But it definitely is that belief system. If I believe in what you're doing, it changes everything.
Yeah. And as the coach, the biggest thing was you can't be stuck in a mentality. So if I'm good at X, I can't just teach X and tell all the students that X is the only thing that you need to know and that will solve all the problems. You need to be a coach that is open-minded with techniques, with styles, with lifestyles, that type of stuff. So, you know, for instance, Berimbolo, if you're talking about jiu-jitsu, a lot of people can't do it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they say, well, it doesn't work. They say it doesn't work because they don't understand it, and they've never been taught properly.
Correct.
So if you have a student that actually is interested in it, and instead of just saying and be honest, going, well, I don't know anything about it, they'll go, oh, but it doesn't work.
Absolutely. And things like rubber guard. Okay. So for argument's sake, take rubber guard. Yes, it is very, it's dependent on your flexibility, right? But I mean, I've got a young guy, and I think you've trained with him, Adam.
Yeah.
15 years old.
Yeah, kid. Yeah.
He's gonna go places, but he's super flexible. Hence, will he teach me rubber guard? You know, and luckily I can do so. But I think the most important thing is to set this foundation, which is actually exactly what you and I've been doing. You know, I've taken a lot of well, it's your curriculum and quantified it and added to it, but your foundation series. And once that foundation, and I mean, the word says it all, is built, then you can start playing with other things. I mean, at the moment, you're busy playing with omoplata.
Yeah.
Ask my left arm from yesterday, because I know this to be true. Now, so you've got to have the foundation first. Yeah. Then you can play.
That's it. The foundation is everything, and that's in any martial arts. That's in striking, wrestling, and any grappling sport. The problem is people don't have a foundation.
Yes. Or a curriculum of sorts.
Yeah, or, you know, systems, sequences, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But it's just like learning. You know, you learn maths, you learn your, you know, plus, minus, divide, so forth. You don't go straight into the big stuff, you know.
I'm with you.
Because that is your foundation. So I look at martial arts as that, how professors and lecturers teach in a lecture hall to a class of 100 people. They have a curriculum, an educational university curriculum that they have to go through, but they don't go to university straight away. You go to high school.
Yeah.
Before that, you go to nursery school.
Absolutely.
And so forth. So that's the kind of teaching methodology that I've taken from, and that's why I think you get better results. The thing with martial arts, in reality, there is no structure in martial arts, especially when it comes to coaching, because in my view, there isn't a lot of coaches teaching how to coach.
Yes.
It's more about coaches teaching the art of martial arts and so forth.
And specifically in this country, because I mean a lot of and let's talk Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and even MMA, you know, you've got a lot of guys going out there at a, let's say, a blue belt level, right? And at a blue belt level, now they're wanting to coach, which is cool because you're competent enough to coach. I mean, I started coaching at blue belt level, and a lot of my coaches are at a blue belt level. That's sort of my, I won't allow anything less than that. That's 100%. My minimum standard. Okay, so now I'm a blue belt, and I have quite a big knowledge set. But starting to coach a group of guys for 2-3 years is way different. Way different. Because then all of a sudden it's, I don't know what to teach. I don't know the structure. I'm going to look at something on YouTube. I've done that before, you know, way back when I started coaching. Until I found my curriculum or my process, and I worked that out, and I ran that for almost, you know, a year and a half when I started Art Suave. Then I saw yours and I was like, even better. So I threw mine away and basically jumped on yours, which I was luckily in a position to do.
Yeah.
But at least I had something. But I see guys out there and I'm going, what are these guys coaching? What are these guys teaching?
It's, sometimes I don't blame them.
Of course not.
Yeah,
because there's nothing else.
There's nothing out. There's no coaches out there teaching how to coach.
Yeah.
Understanding linguistic language. You know, I can teach a technique to 3 different groups, the same technique, but I use different languages which will catch on to different students, like small things like that. Other than having a structured class, that's the other thing, is having structured classes. A simple thing like that, you don't see much. No, I can see straight away when a coach walks in and kind of like some fact, okay, well, today we're going to do X, you know, or, oh, she's like, I saw something really cool on YouTube, so let's do this.
Just teach that.
You know, instead of having, you teach the concepts and foundation of the actual whatever you want to learn, and you know, several of the actual techniques will follow easily, where you don't even have to teach the techniques because the concepts there, and people actually start just clicking onto different techniques. Yes. Yeah, and I think it's a massive problem, because you do get amazing coaches, and we can name a handful out there, but it's only a handful, you know. And as well as, like, I've traveled to basically nearly everywhere in the world that is have great coaches and their gyms and facilities, and some of the guys that you think are absolutely amazing because their careers as a martial artist competitor was so good, you walk into their gym and the coaching level is not good at all. And yeah, just because you're a good competitor doesn't mean you're a good coach, and vice versa. And it's just got to do with systems. There's a structure, just like with anything. You come from a business world.
Absolutely.
You took structure in the business world and you put it in the martial art world, which is exactly what people should be doing. But it takes hard work.
It does. And you know, you take, there's different coaches out there. You one of the few guys in the country who is fortunate enough to have taken your love, your passion, and actually turned it into a business, you know, through everything that FFM have done. And my hat's off to you guys, you know, because a lot of guys out there simply couldn't do it because the market isn't big enough, and the awareness isn't big enough for jiu-jitsu and MMA. But you combine the MMA, you combine the jiu-jitsu, you combine the training facilities, the gym. Okay, great. I'm a part-time jiu-jitsu. I mean, that's just as simple as that. You know, I walk in the evenings, I'm running my businesses, I'm setting up podcasts, I'm consulting, and then I'm going and I'm coaching. So it took a lot of effort on my part, pre being with you. But even now that I'm with you, it still takes the effort of coming to see you, writing everything down. But the greatest thing about I found, you know, when you're teaching, if I teach, as my first white belt walks in, right? He's first class ever. And I teach him the counter, right, to a triangle. He doesn't even know what a triangle is, but I'm teaching him the counter to a triangle. Okay, he's going to learn nothing. He doesn't know what a triangle is. He doesn't know what the defense is. He doesn't care, right? If I triangle a guy for 6 weeks, and then at the end of that 6 weeks, I go, that's the defense. It's an epiphany. And that epiphany, in my opinion, will stick forever.
Yeah.
He will never forget it. So because we've got the structure, because I sort of know where the structure is going, right? And now I'm busy revising, so I'm going back to Underhook Foundation 1 for my gradings. It's so great because I get to plant seeds and I get to do things to my students, right? And then when I teach it, I go, okay, so for the last week, I've been doing this to you. Here's how you counter it. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, now it's an epiphany. So I actually try and create epiphanies.
Yeah.
Now that's great, but you can't do that if every week you're looking at YouTube going, I'm going to teach that, and then I'm going to teach that, because then there's no structure. How do you create these epiphanies?
You need step 1 before you go to step 2.
Yeah.
That's what people don't understand. And it's just because they don't know. Like, it's literally that simple. But coaching takes time, and it takes hard work, and it takes consistent looking. Like the system that I've developed. You met me 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
I mean, even you added quality to it. We change it, we modify it,
because it can't be static.
There's no such thing as perfect.
No.
You got to keep on looking at things. The systems to me or sequences to me all come from like control.
Yes.
And that's what Foundations, the series, is all about, is understanding how to control your opponent and defend yourself in terms of control.
Correct.
Before we go to
the rest will come.
Yeah, the rest will come easily, as long as I know how to defend, control, and control a human
and
in every position.
I also think it takes a mature coach and a mature club in order to do that, because none of what we're doing initially is exceptionally pretty, and I'll tell you why. Because there's no real submissions, and of course all the students want to learn submissions. So while I'm busy teaching it, I'm stringing and I'm going, don't forget there's I don't teach the submission, but I'm showing them there's a submission, and there's a submission, and there's a submission, just so they can see it, because otherwise they get bored.
That's it.
And it takes quite a mature group to turn around and go, all right, for the next 6 months, for argument's sake, we're not going to learn a single submission, but we're going to learn how to control, and then we're going to learn how to defend, because the foundation ends with defense.
Yeah.
And then we start going into attack series.
Yeah.
And to me that makes perfect sense, but instant gratification.
People want the cool stuff.
They
want the instant taps. They want to be the alphas on the male, or on the mat. But controlling a person can actually be way better than a submission. You can control a person into submission, where he just cannot do anything, no matter which direction or position that he tries to do. If you consistently controlling that individual, you've won already, and they will verbally or physically tap from pressure, from
and being uncomfortable.
Exactly. So that's key. That's step 1.
Yeah.
And you got step 2, step 3, and then you can go through. But if you don't have step 1, you can jump to step 2, but there will always be holes.
Agreed. We had House of Tinkerbell. So you have House of Tinkerbell, which is JP Kruger, and Art Suave separate, but of course we cross-pollinate in terms of some of the students, and I coach some of their students. So House of Tinkerbell had a yearly management meeting yesterday with all of their fighters and all the rest of it, and we were busy standing there having a chat, and I said to the guys, you've got to have intent at every single role. And setting goals, because we were discussing goal setting, setting goals is fun. I want to be EFC champion. Okay, that's cool. That's a 12, 15, 24 month goal. Medium term goal, 6 months. Short term goal, okay, I need to come to training. But even a micro goal is, I'm training with that individual. That individual catches me with that. My goal is not to get caught with that as a micro goal. So I turned around and I said, come on guys, I've been rolling you guys now for the last 2-3 weeks since I've been back on holiday. Have I been subbing you? And everybody's like, no. I said, what have I been doing? And everybody's like, side control, top position control. That's it. And I'm taking so much pleasure in just getting somebody inside control top and holding them there, and then moving slightly and maybe advancing positions, whatever, but just that pure control. And to me, I'm 74 kilograms, and I'm in the back of my mind, I'm always remembering why it is that I started this. If I'm on the street and there's a big guy and he does something with my fiance, or puts me in a position where I have absolutely no choice but to defend myself, well, guess what? I can.
Yeah.
Very, very, very successfully.
Yes.
And better than most. And it would probably be control.
That's it. And I mean, how you get there is by actually taking initiative of learning and steps of learning. For instance, this now, I call it BJJ diary. Now, stepping on the mat, like you're saying, you need to have some type of goal, micro goal, every time you roll. What is the objective of today?
Correct.
Or after the rolls, after your open mats, after your 10, 15 rounds, sitting down, writing your BJJ diary, going, what did I do right? What was my problems? Okay, going to the coach and going, listen, my system in half guard is not doing well. I have these problems. Okay, well, what are your 3, 4, 5 options? And let's spider diagram it from there to the end goal of what you want. But people don't see martial arts as that.
Correct. So you've got these business principles that everybody, not everybody, but most people should be instituting, both in your life, in your business, and in your sports. And it's exactly that. Problem solving, pros, cons, understanding where I'm going. I mean, every business owner that I sit with, we write down this foundation series, and basically what we're looking for is we're looking for holes, and we're looking for the Pareto principle. And I believe in the Pareto principle, 80-20, right? And I'm going, what can I do within your business that's going to have the biggest impact and the quickest? So I was speaking to one of my blue belts the other day, and I said to him, bud, you need to start your BJJ matrix, which is what we call it. And yes, he wants to do a book, but he's very much like me. I've got a big Excel spreadsheet with everything on it. And I said, I can guarantee you one of your holes right now is going to be north-south. And he goes, okay. I said, tell me one submission from north-south. And he was like, now if you've got that visually in front of you, you can literally turn around and go, problem. I'm fine there because each sheet can be a position. Now, why would we not take this type of thing, which we do in business and life, and just transfer it straight to Brazilian Jiu Jitsu? You're completely right. And you've opened my eyes up a lot. Yeah. I had my matrix, but I never had a book. And the moment I started with you, I rocked up with a book because I knew you'd shout at me and I was scared.
It's literally a game changer. Yeah. Like, you got to have systems, and those systems need to be written down, and you need to identify what you need to fix immediately.
Self-analysis.
Yeah, your micromanagement, what you need to get immediately. And you can fix a problem in a day, but you need to know what you need to fix.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean? And that's where an Excel sheet comes, or a diary comes, and so forth. And it just makes life so much easier as a coach as well, so I can fix a problem immediately. I fix problems every day, but immediately, because of the system, and because guys know to come to me and go, okay, I need help with X, not I'm rolling and I'm kind of getting this, and kind of this is the problem. It's very vague.
Absolutely.
It's very
I mean,
vague.
we're talking Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but this can be transferred to anything, MMA, any sports you're doing out there in the world.
Well, so we're talking about the system that I've created in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but the system that's actually more sound than my Brazilian Jiu Jitsu system
is your MMA,
is my striking system.
Yes, your striking system.
And that's cool. What a lot of people haven't clicked or heard of or anything, because for most people, striking is, you're just going to fight, or your distance management's great, or your timing's great. Not, there's a system to increase your ability of striking. For instance, you take a Boyd Allen.
Yes.
Most people will go, oh no, but he's been a good striker all his life from boxing. Okay. But if you dig deeper and you actually speak to him, which you will be soon, he'll actually explain to you how that's not necessarily the case. Cool, let's cancel that example out. Let's take a guy like JP, like BK, and like Iga Cabeza. These guys were pure wrestlers only, literally pure wrestlers. Their jiu-jitsu was horrendous, but because they're wrestlers, they know how to control humans, because of a contact sport, a grappling art. But their striking was, they didn't know what their left and right was, and so forth. Got into my system for 6 months to a year. They first knockouts they've ever had was with me, TKOs, the head movement and everything. Now their striking is actually complete as much as their wrestling.
Yeah.
And if
And
you look
now
at a guy,
you become a mixed martial artist.
100%, you look at a guy like BK. Everyone likes to watch BK.
Oh, God, I
He's
love
doing
him. His fight with Alves. Is it
yeah,
Alves?
Yeah, the Brazilian guy, Popeye. Yeah.
I mean, so Alves is a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Black belt, right? BK out wrestled him, outstrike him, and it was probably one of my favorite fights I've ever seen. Really, really, really. My respect level just for his take away his skills and ability, because that was there. That was self-evident. I mean, he was picking that guy apart.
Yeah.
It was his takedowns were incredible. Then you add in his enthusiasm and his style and his flair.
Yeah.
Man, and I mean he's tiny. How big is he?
56 kilos. He doesn't even cut weight. He actually should be in atom weight, which is not even in the UFC. It's only in 1FC.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, and that's my thing, is that I have my Brazilian Jiu Jitsu system that, you know, always working on, and it's a little bit more complex than any of the other arts.
Of course.
And then the striking system, because I came from striking, but that is way more complete in my view than the other system. And then I've got my wrestling, or my war wrestling system. You know, and all of these systems, you have to compare it to something.
Yes.
So you've got to travel. You've got to go to the best coaches that are known in the best competitions at the best gyms. And that's what I've done. And that's not only what I've done, that's what my students have done. And I've said nothing, and they've come back with the feedback.
Yeah.
You know, and you've got guys that have gone to some of the top gyms in the world, and they stand out. People think they're gods. I don't know what the hell's going on with their striking, with this, with that. My purple belts tapping black belts and so forth, and the knowledge transfer, that's the most important. Not just being like a beast on the mat. It's more about them going, hey, that war system, that's amazing, show it to me, and they're able to teach it as well.
Yes, because they understand it.
100%.
Because it's sequential.
Yeah.
And I mean, just to everybody listening, you know, there is, first and foremost, I want to say to you that my process in terms of finding my coach, and which is now you, has been a very, very long one. You know, I had enough knowledge, high level, I'd like to believe technical, purple belt and brown belt when I opened up Art Suave. I was of the opinion that I didn't need a coach immediately. I needed a coach long term. So I had enough time to look for a coach. And there's a couple of reasons that I chose you for a coach. First of all, your systems that appeal to me. Despite what you say now, and this is going back to what you were saying, you're exceptionally humble, like exceptionally humble. So what you're saying now isn't you being egotistical. I saw it. I mean, I'd like to believe that I had my choice of most coaches in the country because of the group that I sort of brought to the table, you know. And I looked at what you were doing, and I was in absolute awe. I was like, this is insane. I mean, you take somebody like Boyd, right here where we're sitting. Many years ago, I gave Boyd his first couple of months of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Right here, we had mats, and we didn't have this. I have my dining room table because I got engaged, and I got a club, so I have my mats with. But now he's a different animal. Yeah. I mean, and in a different league to most, you know. And your record, in terms of what FFM has done, speaks for itself. There are good camps out there. You know, my sister or my brother camp, House of Tinkerbell. Brilliant fighters, stupendous amateurs coming through the ranks. I mean, really, just top class guys with good work ethic. Pesfa, for argument's sake, Chris is amazing. But there's two standout gyms, okay? Statistically speaking, this isn't even my opinion. UNCRT,
yes,
right? And then statistically speaking, not my opinion, the belts that you hold speak for themselves.
Exactly. People don't realize I've had over 11 belts in EFC. And
That's it. I mean, does anybody?
No. Some gyms might have had 3, 4, like CRT.
Yeah.
I've had over 11. Obviously, the first UFC fighter to win in the UFC coming out of South Africa, and so forth. Most international fights from the gym and all of that. You know, like you said, facts are facts. And
yes, there's a difference between opinion. My opinion was that you're really great. I want you to be my coach. The facts are that, I mean, it's there. And you know, this despite the fact that, and in a lot of instances, and for whatever reason, and I believe it's changing, but FFM had, I'd like to say, a reputation you know, and however that came about, okay, that's fine, but it's definitely changing, you know, and even for myself, I fell prey to that due to previous influences in my life, and I was like, oh, you know, I mean, guys are scared to come and train.
It definitely is. Like, you know, I started martial arts very young, and I started coaching it very young. So the last 10 years have been a lot of experimental phases, and to the point where I am now. And I am much older now,
of course,
you know, and I've done the right things and I've done the wrong things, and no one is always right. And I've done things that I shouldn't have done, maybe in terms of coaching in the gym, that has maybe created the image of Fight Fit. But also, because you're the highest tree, you're always going to get the most wind.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's a fact, especially in this country. It was a very small sport, like, you know, you started at the same time, and
I was at UFC 1 with Nathan.
Yeah, exactly.
When did you fight? UFC?
EFC 2.
Excuse me. EFC 2.
EFC 2.
Yeah, I was there for that.
Yeah. So, you know, you also, with mixed martial arts and a competitive team, you've got many personalities. Now, my job is to coach, and my job is to try be a leader, but my job is not to be a father.
Yes.
And I cannot micromanage or manage everyone's personalities, because that is impossible. Also, is it my right to change someone's personality if that's the way they are? My job is to guide them in their career and to transfer knowledge to the best of my ability for them to compete and win in a sport.
Correct.
Not to baby them.
Yeah, and what a lot of guys won't maybe know, because they don't have insights into the sort of EFC the way we do. But I mean, if you're getting signed as an athlete to the EFC, right, you have to have a Twitter account, you have to have a Facebook account, you have to have a Instagram account, and if you don't, they won't even sign you, because it's your job to market yourself. Now, this marketing of self is so interesting when I look at fighters. It's so interesting because you've got guys out there, Boyd, right? I love him, but he markets himself through his sheer ability, not through any smack talking or rubbish talking or anything like that. Then you've got other guys out there who, and I'm not going to mention names, but who smack talk and do all the rest of it. But it is exactly that. Now, how can you as a coach turn around and go, don't be true to yourself, because maybe I'm a bit of an eccentric and maybe I do want to call out this guy.
100%.
And that does create, unfortunately, right, it does create interest and hype in the fight, which of course sells tickets, which of course is directly and proportionate to what they get signed as in terms of financial remuneration. And at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of fighters out there, that's their primary income.
Yeah, I mean, they are in the entertainment business, regardless of what anyone wants to say. And, you know, also, it's not my job to change your personality. If you're eccentric and you love to smack talk and do, then so be it. That is not my job. You know, and I felt like I got blamed a lot as a coach for other people's actions. My whole freaking career here, you know. And at the end of the day, they are grown men. They make
accountable for themselves.
My job is to transfer knowledge and to prepare them for violent encounters.
Correct.
In a professional environment. That is my job. My job is not to control their lives. And if they make mistakes, they need to learn. Yes, can I give advice? 100%. But how many people always take advice?
Yeah, and especially when you're dealing with a bunch of vipers.
That's it.
You know, and I use the analogy vipers because, you know, in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu we have the saying, teaching Jiu Jitsu is like teaching snakes to bite.
Yeah.
Sooner or later they're going to bite you.
100%.
You know, but you're talking about strong-willed, alpha male guys who've got massive amounts of talent and massive amounts of ability, the top of the proverbial food chain. These guys aren't easily managed.
Yeah. Coming from, you know, rough backgrounds.
Yeah. Street fighters.
Yeah, some are uneducated, some are educated, you know, hard lives, that type of stuff. And you're trying to now guide them in the right direction, which I love doing. That's part of the coach. But I cannot micromanage 20, 30, 40, 50 guys. You know,
it's impossible.
It's impossible. And I do it to best of my ability. You know, you got like guys like the Mart. Let's take him for when he rocked up at the gym. He lived in the gym for 2 years, you know, and I taught him how to make money as a personal trainer, increase his skill set, get his degree, get a house, get a car, and kind of point him in that direction, which I didn't do, but I pointed him in the right direction. Correct. For it.
You were that mentor.
Yeah. And you look at him now, and he's pound for pound the best MMA athlete in the country, and he's doing amazingly well. Now he's just opened up his new gym, and that's what I enjoy. I like to see an individual like that is kind of on level 1 and take them to level 20.
Isn't that why we do what we do?
100%.
Hey, absolutely. I mean, it's about the young kid walking in who's drooping shoulders and can't look you in the eye and has got self-esteem problems and I want to learn jiu-jitsu, and 2 years later, this guy's shoulders are open and he's looking you in the eye and he's confident and he's taken control of his life. And that's what any martial art gives you. Not even just Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but any alive martial arts, not a traditional based system. I just believe that gives you a false sense of security.
100%.
But any aliveness sports, that's what it gives you. And to see that transformation, we have the ability and we have the responsibility to change lives. And I don't think people take that seriously enough.
No, they don't, unless they see it and they've been in it and they understand it.
Correct.
But and that's the biggest envy I have with a lot of guys. So I've been self-taught. Now I don't have my mentor or my head coach and so forth. How do I get my black belt? Yes, I've got a black belt that I'm under, but it's not like he was with me from white belt. It's not like he's in the same country. It's not like you see him every month. You understand me? Like,
difficult.
That's what I envy. I envy a proper coach and mentor, because not even today, every day I have to teach myself. Yes, it's been hard, but I created a system for me to learn quicker.
Correct. And I don't think the average person there even conceives about what you've just said, let alone coaches, how absolutely difficult it is, because I was in that exact position, right? We met 2 years ago, well, not met, but we started training 2 years ago, but our relationship in terms of you being my coach, I would say now is about just about a year old, if even that, right? And pre that, man, I was in the wilderness. It's so difficult. It's so hard not to have that mentor. Now, all of a sudden, I have that mentor, so life is great for me. And you've just said this to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, what about Richie?
Yeah.
Luckily for you, you get to focus on this as a career.
Yes.
Whereas I don't. I don't have this as a career. And we're at two polar opposite ends of the spectrum there in terms of club owners.
Yes.
Together. And it is a bit of a convoluted relationship that we've got. But it's so difficult. I know that. And it just shows your strength of character, I believe, and your determination to put your students above yourself. Because you could very easily, Richie, go to any club in the world and probably be the head coach under whichever black belt you chose, right? And coach there and earn great money and you're good. I believe.
I mean,
you don't leave me, Richie. Okay, I'll hunt you down, but I'm from Springs. You must know.
I mean, I'm a coach. I've never really been a competitor. Like, we're talking about the whole coaching, and I could go here, there. Like, I'm not a badass on the mat. I'm not a badass competitor. My first and foremost thing is to transfer the best knowledge available and make people badass.
Yes. There I agree.
And that is what I earn for. I don't earn for to step on the mat. And this is the thing. Coaches think they need to be the number one badass. You are never going to do that, because
not in this sport.
You don't train enough for it as a professional athlete. You get older, and there's always those younger guys coming up, and I think it's a big problem for coaching and for coaches, is that they don't understand the first and foremost job is to coach and not be the alpha. Because
it's something I'm wrestling with at the moment. When in my blue belts and my early purple belt career, I mean, I entered a lot of competitions, and I've won a few South African championships, and I was it's strange. At white belt, I couldn't even get one triangle on, right? At blue belt, something clicked and everything worked for me. and my blue belts and purple belt career was really, really great. And I had to stick out that white belt. So I competed a lot. You know, Nathan Art's my coach. He always pushed me to compete, and I competed a lot. I opened up Art Suave, and you know, the first year we didn't compete at all because literally it was just a question of setting the foundation of my students. The second year, as we started competing, I became part of South African Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Federation, as are you, and all of a sudden now I'm coaching my guys to get ready for the comps. Okay, then when I'm at the competition, I'm wearing 2 hats, and the one hat is coach, and the other one is South African Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Federation president, exactly. And I need to run it, and you're doing exactly the same thing, right? And we're running these competitions. Where in that do I have time to seriously focus on myself as a competitor? Can I do it? Could I just roll? Yes, I could, but then I'd be doing myself a disservice, I think. Because what I mean by that is, if I lost, I know for a fact, and I don't mind losing, but I want to lose because the competitor was better than me, not because I didn't put the effort in. And I at the end of a competition day at SABJF, I'm coaching. I mean, I got big clubs, man. All my clubs come through, and we know I'm from sheer size, I'm a competitor. Art Suave, but I may corner 15, 20 guys in a day. That in itself absolutely drains me.
100%. Absolutely drains me,
let alone running it. And now at the end of the day, as a brown belt, I've got to go compete. I don't mind losing. Yeah, I really don't, and I mean that because there's some guys out there, brown belts, who I'm going to have a really tough time with. I mean, a seriously tough time. Dennis of Sina is one. I mean, I know for all Dennis.
Yeah, Dennis. Yeah.
I believe Dennis is better than me. I don't believe I can beat him yet, but I can catch him. He's that good. I mean, he's been a brown belt for 9 years.
Yeah, he should be a black by now.
I know, and I've been a brown belt for 2 years. You know, so that doesn't bother me. But when I roll him, I want it to be, I'm giving it my 100%, and then I lose 100%. Then I'm cool with that. Yeah. And it's what I say to my students as well. You know, don't half-ass it. If you're gonna go, and if you don't want to compete, don't compete. Yeah. But give it your everything. Make your choice.
Make your choice. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
It's making the choice.
So, getting back to what you were saying, it's my dilemma, and a lot of my students are asking me, when are you going to compete? When are you going to compete? And it's not a question of making excuses. It's a question of, what are my priorities? My priorities at the age of 37 is to grow my club, to grow Brazilian Jiu Jitsu in this country via South African Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Federation, right? And look after myself because I want to roll until I'm 80. Okay. And competing is in none of those. Yeah. Absolutely none of those.
So exactly what you said. Look at a guy, everyone knows John Danaher. I mean, his podcast came out now, so everyone knows it. He cannot roll.
He can't roll, yeah.
So how do you look at a guy like him? But you see, this is where people become very fickle, because then you look at a guy, the South African community, like Cyborg. You know, he came here, gave a good speech on being a coach and being a competitor. But I believe he can't be the best of his ability as a coach, because he is
such a competitor.
In his blood, he is a competitor.
Yes.
Through and through, in his blood, he is a competitor. So, for me, I always tell people, you need to know your priorities and what is your goal.
Yeah. And I think what coaches need to do in anything, right? I mean, we're talking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I mean, this can be extrapolated 100%. To anything, is as your student walks in, right? And yes, this is subject to change, but as your student walks in, ask your student the question, what are you here for? What are you actually doing here, right? If it's a 52 kilogram female, she's not here to be world champion. Maybe later, right? I've got a blue belt, and I think you've rolled with him, Chris.
Yes.
And he is phenomenal, man. He's one of the hardest guys to tap in my club. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Yeah. He's got this Greek Spartan blood coming from way back, you know. I can choke him until he's purple, and he just won't tap. Doesn't want to compete. And you know what? I'm happy for it. Yeah. He doesn't want to compete. He wants to come to jiu-jitsu. He wants to roll like a mad savage. I mean, you meet that guy on the street and you pick with him, and you're going to make a big mistake. Doesn't want to compete. Then I got other guys who are like, yes, I want to compete. Okay, cool. Now I know how to manage the expectations. Now I know how to manage the training, and also realize that people can change their minds. And I think what happens is, coaches get so fixated on okay, this is my fight team, right? And this is my normal team, because we do teach the two differently. But at the end of the day, if you've got a fighter and he eventually turns around and goes, you know what, but I don't want to fight anymore. that is right. And he
Yeah.
can do that. And we need to be so conscious of where people are in their lives.
That's it. One thing though, how I teach a fighter is actually the exact same way I teach a general
Okay, yes.
population.
No, I agree with you.
In terms of systems.
I was referring specifically to more like training. You know,
100%. You got to put more hours in.
There we go.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Saturday mornings we're going to go to Open Mat Nana, right?
Yeah.
And on a Saturday morning we'll do, depending on how many people there, but we'll do 10 5-minute rounds or 15 5-minute rounds. And I want my guys competing to be there because that's where we test the mettle, right? I don't expect. Yet sometimes my normal guys are there. I mean, they're always there, but they're there more. But that's what I mean. I expect after our classes we have a 30-minute open mat, right? I expect those guys to be rolling.
It's your responsibility. If
Correct.
you want to compete, you have a responsibility to complete certain steps, and that is putting in the extra hours, extra rounds, being there consistently, and so forth. Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%.
Okay, so let's completely sidetrack and let's go way back when. So Richie Quan is 12 years old, 13 years old, 9 years old, and watches a movie and decides he wants to be a ninja.
Yeah.
How did it happen? How did you get involved in martial arts?
Exactly that.
Yes.
Exactly that. I'm a big movie fanatic.
Okay.
Since I was a kid, movies has always been
Where were
my
you born,
escape.
Richie?
I was born in South Africa.
In South Africa.
In Joburg.
Okay, so the rumors that you fled the East because you're an assassin is that?
There's many of these stories that I've heard, but no, that's not it.
Rumor.
Yeah. No, I was born in Joburg.
Okay.
And my dad is quite a highly educated individual. So we moved to Malaysia and Thailand when I was like 9. And in my early years, I've always watched Bruce Lee movies and, you know, the normal story.
The quintessential story,
yeah.
yes.
But I became obsessed with martial arts, but I was never allowed to do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. My parents were very religious. So are still very religious, but it wasn't a thing that was looked upon.
Okay.
So only when I moved to the East, where it's an like national sport and part of the culture, I actually convinced and was allowed to train.
Okay.
And I found Muay Thai. The first actual martial art event I ever watched live was at Lumpini Stadium. You know, the Olympics of Muay Thai and that type of stuff. And
what a way to get introduced.
Yeah, and it just kicked from there. You know, I found a camp, I started training, and I actually started competing without my parents knowing.
Mom, I'm going down the road to get an ice cream.
Yeah, I mean, I used to live very close to my high school, so I used to walk to school every day, but in reality I would go to training.
You bad boy, you.
So
how long did you train before your folks found out?
Only when I was 16.
Did they find out?
Only when I was 16.
And how long had you been training for?
Since I was 9.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So they knew that I was training. That was
okay, but they didn't know that you were
issue.
competing.
But competing, yeah, no. And I think my dad opened up a newspaper and actually saw me there in the sports section, and that kind of like let the cat out of the bag.
What happened?
Well, I was a bit older and they were a bit older by then,
Okay.
and I was kind of okay, but yeah.
Okay, so you started competing. I mean, in terms of notable competitions, is anything notable?
I fought in Lumpini.
Okay.
Yeah, 7 times. I got, I won in Lumpini, and that was my
Yeah, that's a
goal.
hell of a thing.
Yeah, that
and
was
for anybody who doesn't know what that is, I mean, that is competing at Loftus, Bulls versus the Sharks finals.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in Thailand. That's it.
Yeah,
Lumpini
that's
Stadium is the biggest.
Yeah. And this is obviously the old Lumpini Stadium before it's got, you know, revamped and moved and stuff. But that was the pinnacle of my childhood, was to compete there. And then one day I opened up a magazine and I saw mixed martial arts, and I was like, what are these guys doing on the ground?
Yeah, what is this?
You know,
Why are they wearing
for,
pajamas?
You know, I mean, people talk to strikers, and striking is be all end all. I'll just hit you and you'll go to sleep type vibe. You know, there's no understanding of the full science of the human body and combat and all of that. So I saw this and I was like, no, I got to understand what the hell this is. But back in those days,
You couldn't find
you
it.
couldn't find a lot of it. And actually, the first guy that actually introduced me to Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is a guy called Adam Cocoon.
Okay.
Who's worked with a lot of guys. He lives in Thailand now under American Top Team. He was part of a few of the guys in South Africa. He was here recently, and I was very young, and I did a seminar with him for Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And then it
In
kind
your
of
teen still, before 20?
yeah, I was 15.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I just kind of started learning from anyone that I could, gripping people and trying to understand what rolling was and all of that type of stuff. Then I had the opportunity to move to the States, to the US, to LA.
Okay. At what age?
I was 17.
Okay.
Yeah. And I moved there and obviously went straight to a Muay Thai gym because
that's what you do.
That's what I did. You know?
But now you had Brazilian Jiu Jitsu open to you.
Yes. So now I have the knowledge. I have access to something. And right next to my gym, or in the gym, was a guy called Joe Maria, who's a Corobot now. And the first guy that kind of like took me and made me understand Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, this guy that everyone knows, is called Cub Swanson, because he was my student.
Okay.
And
he was your student?
He was my student. I trained Cub for his first 7 pro fights.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How incredible.
Yeah. So he lived in Palm Springs. You know, he was a rebellion kid as well. He worked at like old age home, you know, and fought on the side. And we kind of, like, I was coaching him stand up, and he was this purple belt back then, and he would just kind of destroy guys all the time, you know, in BJJ competitions and stuff. And, you know, he was the guy that like kind of we went to, and I would follow him to Pan Ams. I didn't even know what a Pan Ams back then was. Grapplers Quest, super fights, and I seen him at purple belt level, you know, tap black belts with he had a cast on his arm. You know, it's like stuff like that. I got crazy stories with that, and that's how I was introduced to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I went to Gracie Barra headquarters in Irvine, you know, the old headquarters. Now it's massive, in a train station, all of that. And so I got into mixed martial arts. You know, my first live fight of mixed martial arts I ever watched was at King of the Cage with Uriah Faber.
Oh, wow.
And last year, obviously, with JP being part of Team Alpha Man, very close to
And you're talking
Uriah.
about JP Base?
JP Base, yeah.
Correct.
And I spoke to Uriah about it, and he totally remembered everything. It was the craziest thing.
Really?
You know,
he remembers you there?
Well, he remembers what I was talking about, the fight, but the actual detail to that degree, I was like, wow. You know, and then obviously I dabbled in mixed martial arts fights and King of the Cage and stuff like that in on that side of the world. And you know, guys that are around me, you don't realize until you know, you guys got like Tito's in your changing room, Rampage, you know, Rich Franklin, you know, all of these guys that are eventually all massive names. And
that's incredible.
Yeah,
I didn't know this.
Yeah, and I kind of took it from there, you know, and I fell into the coaching because I wanted to fight and fought and everything, but then people just started asking for help, pad work, stand up, this, that. And I kind of just fell into that.
At which gym did you, so when did you actually start? When did you first put on your gi and your white belt?
Was when I landed in the US.
Okay. With which club?
Joe Maria.
Okay, with Joe Maria. Yeah. And how long into your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu career? I mean, obviously now you've got this massive experience in Muay Thai, right? Which coming from where you did Muay Thai, I mean, that's definitely, I can see that being a massive positive in America.
Yeah.
You know, you probably had a skill that not a lot of guys really understood to that level. So then you at what point did you start coaching?
I started coaching basically nearly right away.
In terms of Muay Thai stand-up?
In terms of striking.
Okay.
And I just fell into it. But with that, I was coaching stand-up, but understanding the coaching, because I worked with guys like Eric Paulson. Okay. You know, Eric Paulson was next to me in the corners with Cub. You know, like there was a lot of grapplers around me that only now I realize who they were, but back then it was. So I learned a lot with my eyes and trained with a lot of the fighters, and you know, I had a facility, and there's a lot of people that rocked up that when I tell them, they would never believe, you know. And even now when I think about it, I'm like, oh well.
And
but
you knew nothing back then.
I didn't take to advantage. If I had the knowledge that I had now about where I was, it would be a different story. And I also grappled a lot at the Gracie Barra headquarters, and that's obviously my lineage still now, and so forth. But my jiu-jitsu coaching only kind of started when I got back to South Africa.
Okay. And what belt did you get back to South Africa as?
I was still white.
Oh, so you didn't even grade there?
Yeah, because I did gi, I did no gi. I trained with
Okay,
that guy.
I see.
There was no structure.
There's no structure.
There was
Correct.
no structure. I had a lot of competitors.
And how long have you been in the gi in the States? So you arrived in the States at 17?
Yeah,
right?
I left when I was 21.
21?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in the gi for a while, or at least doing jiu-jitsu for a while.
I was
So why did you move back to South Africa, your folks?
Yeah, I had to kind of, like, you know, everyone understands the South African passports are not the greatest thing.
No, they're not, aren't
yeah,
they?
so visa issues became a problem and so forth. Also, I was young, but like at that age, you just think, oh no, everything will be fine. I'll be sharp, and you know, don't actually understand the processes and that. And if you leave out the processes, the consequences to it. So I could not stay there anymore, and I just thought everything would be fine and so forth. So I could not stay there anymore, and I had to come back to a country where I could stay in, because Asia was the same thing. Regardless how long you stay there, you are never a resident there. It's impossible, especially in Asia. So the only country I could come back to was my home country, which was South Africa. But I hadn't been here since I was 9 years old. So I came back here when I was 21.
Okay.
Which is a massive culture shock to me as well.
Massively so. And what year was that? Can you remember?
But 2002, 2004, somewhere around there. I can't even remember. And when I got here, I was like super depressed because I didn't have anyone in terms of martial arts. I didn't know where to train. Martial arts here was
terrible.
Dungeons, like there was no.
I mean, you've just come from arguably what is the best martial arts.
MMA, it's martial arts haven.
Exactly. To South Africa.
And there was nothing.
And there was nothing back then.
And then there was this, you know, when I went to go see a few people, there was this whole, you understand this whole like tough guy gangster vibe. And it wasn't, I didn't understand it. Yes, martial arts is martial arts, and everywhere you go, you always have those type of individuals, but like I couldn't understand it. And I could see that the knowledge transfer here was definitely not on the same level. Close to. So I was quite depressed for about 6 months, 7 months, and I actually got my first real job, if you want to say that. And that was actually with my dad.
Doing?
I was in his office.
Okay.
Yeah, and that only lasted 6 months.
Shuffling papers.
Yeah, I was like, this life is not for me. I feel like a zombie. My brain's not being used. I need to do something, you know. And so my cousin actually said, listen, there's a capoeira school in a taekwondo school in Rivonia, and this guy wants to do some Muay Thai. And I was like, sweet. So I went there. I did one lesson, and then it kind of kicked off from there. He said, why don't you teach some classes? So I taught some classes. My first students, guys like Graham from EFC, who's the EFC matchmaker.
Was he your first?
Yeah, well, one of them, you know.
Okay.
Cairo is actually one of them.
Okay.
You know, there's what I call the originals. A lot of them are much older now and chose a different path in that. But there's a few names like Graham and so forth that are now big names in the sport. And I just kind of took it from there. I just started coaching, and I didn't care. I didn't worry about if it was going to work or wasn't going to work. All I knew was that I needed to do this because I was becoming a zombie. Yeah. And I blinked and I had a whole lot of students around me, and I moved to another facility, and obviously that's where I met Norman Vessels as one of my students, and that's a big history there as well. And we moved facility and got bigger, and then EFC was created. and that was the first platform, professional platform.
Correct.
Because there was a lot of underground stuff going down and all of that, and smaller shows. But EFC was the first professional platform that we could compete in, and that's where I guess a professional athletic team was created.
Was sort of created, yes. Yeah. Before that, it was just training for the sake of training, because we love doing this. But now all of a sudden, now we can go play.
Yeah. And then from there, we've got all the old school MMA guys coming through and competing, and the newer generation coming through in. And then the amateurs got a little bit better, and EFC got a little bit better, and then blink and here we are today. But it changed a lot about 2.5 years ago, where I started going Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is my thing.
Correct. Because there's definitely been a shift, and I think it was about 2.5 years ago when I decided to do a little initiative called Jiu Jitsu in the Park.
Yes.
Right. And my idea was to get everybody together.
Yes.
In fact, it was less, probably 2 years ago. But I decided to get everybody together and let's do this massive Jiu Jitsu in the park, and let's get all the clubs together and just have a jaw. You know, I mean, that really what was it about. And I remember coming to you and going, Rich, you don't know me, I'm Huntley.
Yes.
This is what I want to do. Right? Are you in? Because what I did is I actually went to all the coaches as opposed to phoning them.
Yeah.
I went to all the coaches and said, guys, this is what I want to do. Do I have your buy-in? Can you commit some sort of student to me? And I'm trying to get numbers. People forget that a WhatsApp message is very different to a phone call, and a meeting is even better than a phone call. 100%. But everybody wants to send out a WhatsApp message and go, hey guys, I've got this thing I'm doing. Oh, wow. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And you said to me then, yes, I'm in, and I want you to know that my priorities are shifting, and you and I are going to do a lot in the future. And I didn't, so prophetic in hindsight, but I mean, at that point, we didn't really understand that. But even back then, you were going, okay, why? What's the reason?
Like I have an obsessive personality, and structure is key for me, and when it came to mixed martial arts, there's a lot of politics, just like in every sport. But for me, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu was like the answer for everything.
Okay.
And in terms of business, it was the answer. That was one of them. General.
When you say business, you meaning that you could build a big student base, that the guys typically don't leave.
Yeah, I mean, you look at
that. There's a progression.
You look at. Let's look at general population. Do they want to walk in
and be MMA fighters?
And be an MMA fighter? No. Do they want to walk in and get hit? No. They don't. They can't put on their suit and go to work and go to a meeting. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you can put on a gi, you can roll, you can dominate someone, be dominated, take in information, have a shower, put your suit on, go to the board office.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. I mean, I don't know any striking facility in the world, and I've been to 90% of them, that has a massive student base. But guys go, oh yes, there is definitely. Okay, watch the class. Do they spar every single day? No, they do drills. That's like drilling in BJJ every day and not rolling.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, okay, so you can run a facility by hitting pads and doing drills, and then the general community carry on. But they love that. Why? Because they're not getting dominated and punched in the face.
Exactly.
Yeah. And for me, that was the first one, was business. Secondly, I do believe that contact, grappling, contact sport is the ultimate in terms of any combat.
Well, we get to go, and to quote a few famous guys out there, but we get to go and play a game of I'm going to try and kill you, and literally, when we roll, you kill me at least 5 to 10 times, 15 times in an hour or 45-minute session. But it's a joke and it's ha, and I call jiu-jitsu struggle cuddling, ha.
Yeah.
But you really killed me.
Yeah.
You really killed me, and the only reason I'm not dead is because I tapped and you let go. But people don't. It's a joke. These guys in pajamas. Yeah, he'll kill you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, people say to me, how long, if you choke me, how long would it take me to be unconscious? So say as a non-grappler, you're probably looking at about 3 to 5 seconds, right? As a non-grappler. A grappler can push it to 7 if you're lucky, and maybe not even. Yeah. And then how long until you're dead? Yeah, not long.
Yeah.
15, 20 seconds after that,
Yeah.
and you're dead. So basically, I can kill you in 25 seconds. That's power, man.
I can dominate you. I can do with what I want with you
Yeah.
if you're uneducated with it.
Especially somebody at a high level who's
100%.
rolling somebody who knows nothing.
Nothing.
And let's talk about a street altercation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
done. I'm a very technical brown belt, and you are through your efforts making me into a better roller, because
Yes.
my rolling ability didn't match my technical ability, and I don't have an ego. I'll
Yes.
gladly say that. So now I'm a very high level, even more technical brown belt. My rolling ability is better, not where it needs to be, but better. And basically, you make me your bitch. It's true, Richie.
I
So
don't
what
think
about
so.
about the guy on the street who knows nothing, who tries to attack, or some guy wants to walk past there and puts your wife's life in danger?
Yeah.
Well, dude, this guy doesn't even know, and this little Asian's going to run up and he's dead 25 seconds later.
Yeah, I mean, how I put it into content with in terms of professionalism with the sport. So we see so many strikers, top level, world class strikers, get into mixed martial arts and they do horribly wrong. It's because they don't have the confidence in terms of expressing their strength, which is striking, because of the ground game. But if you make them an ultimate ground guy and understand and comfortable with it, they get more knockouts then.
So what you're saying is, right, if I'm a stand-up practitioner only and I don't have ground, I'm so worried about the takedown that I can't allow my hands to flow. Whereas if I have Brazilian Jiu Jitsu or wrestling or takedown skills or
Grappling art.
on top of that, because I'm confident in that, I'm going to allow my hands to go.
100%.
And that's
You're going to
okay.
have confidence and you're going to be able to execute what you need to. I don't put wrestling and jiu-jitsu in two separate boxes. It's a grappling art. You need both of them.
Yes.
And that's what people don't understand.
Yes.
It is the same thing regardless of one. It's a contact sport.
Well, I mean, if you look at your first foundation, which is Underhook Foundation 1, it is part beautiful jiu-jitsu technique and then it goes straight into wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, that takedown,
Yeah.
is straight into wrestling. So right there, Foundation 1, Underhook is literally a culmination of two things. I mean, JP Kruger, my purple belt. And so JP Kruger, although he has House of Tinkerbell, he is my coach at Arts of Boxburg,
Yes.
right? And I mean, he's a beast.
Yes.
And his jiu-jitsu is phenomenal, but he loves wrestling. And the first time I showed him the movie, he's like, yeah, but that's exactly what I teach. And I said, yes, precisely. Now I add in the jiu-jitsu technique in front of that. And he was like, because of course we're talking about the spear and the technique. And he was like, oh, I love that. And now it started making sense. But I mean, the wrestlers are going, yeah, I know that. It's not rocket science.
Same concept you can put in together is striking is an art like grappling is art.
Yeah.
But you're not going to go, well, I'm just going to box. Well, you can kick as well.
Yes.
It's the same thing, Add that in. Combine them.
Oh, that's powerful.
Yeah. So now you got wrestling, jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
Combine them. It's a grappling art and a striking art.
Correct.
That's my two concepts.
Love
I
it.
don't separate.
So jiu-jitsu wrestling, striking and kicking, lumped together, and that's your holistic program.
That's it.
Correct. And then, of course, I mean, we're not talking about the walls and the striking from the ground and all of the rest of it.
But I mean, that is the foundation. And, for me, that's why I turned to Brazilian Jiu Jitsu a lot and started focusing on it, because it gave my athletes more confidence into executing what they need to do and initially win fights.
Yeah.
And the next thing was knowledge. It's human chess. And for me, that was the best thing.
I know.
Like I clicked in terms of I can learn something every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I can provide information every day for the rest of my life with grappling. It's a total different knowledge-based system compared to striking. They call boxing or striking the sweet science. It is.
Yeah.
But
Jiu-jitsu is quantum physics.
That's it. Jiu-jitsu is a sweet quantum physics thing, because it is totally different. And I'm not putting down striking, because I'm basically a striking foundation. But intellectually, knowledge-based wise, it's it's
on
black and
another
white.
planet.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
on another planet.
No, I agree. You know, I had an ex-girlfriend of mine who one day turned around to me and said, well, you know, when does this end? I was like, what do you mean, when does this end? And she says to me, when do you know everything? I was like, when I'm dead.
Yeah.
Literally when I'm dead. I mean, my goal is to roll until I'm 90, you know? And I think especially for smaller guys.
Yeah.
You know, we so in awe of this jiu-jitsu. I mean, my first encounter with jiu-jitsu was I rolled with a very pretty young brunette who at that point was my coach's girlfriend, and she was quite high in comparison to me, you know, and I'd done lots of martial arts, so I thought I was the shit. And this chick dominated me, and I just sat there and I was like, how?
Yeah.
How? You know, I still remember saying to Nathan, you know, I was like, yo, he's like, get on the mat and roll with her. I'm like, dude, you know who I am.
Yeah.
We've trained together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I can go.
I got Muay Thai, boxing,
Yeah.
boo. I'm gonna smash this chick. And he's like, go. I got beat by a girl. And then I thought to myself, oh wow. And I think not people who are intellectual, but people who can just sit there and go, objectively speaking, if that chick can do that to me, what can I do to somebody else?
That's it. So this is a big thing with jiu-jitsu, and if you look in history, you can see the change of how jiu-jitsu became as well. Like, people go, oh, but jiu-jitsu is for small people and weak people, and it will work. Yes, it will work to a certain degree.
It will work based on the knowledge of the opponent.
Yes, but physical attributes play a massive role.
Yes.
If I have a small black belt and he rolls a massive white belt, the black belt will win because of knowledge base.
Correct.
Okay. But if a super massive strong base athlete has the knowledge of a black belt, you have massive problems.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, a perfect example is, for argument's sake, this. I'm a brown belt, right? I'm light at the moment. I'm 74 because of my keto, right? I was 74 at the moment. Let's take somebody like JP Cougar.
Yeah.
Okay. He's a purple belt. He's 6'2". He weighs walking like I don't know what he's weighing at the moment because of his knee surgery, but let's say 90 kgs. Yeah. He's an athlete.
Yeah.
Strength wise, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. JP Cougar, my purple belt student, taps me.
Yeah. 100%.
There's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
You know, I can get to the point where he taps me less. I can get to the point where I tap him more.
Yeah.
But there are certain things that I physically cannot stop.
Yeah.
If he grabs an armbar, right, and I can't get my defensive setup as per our structure done right, he can literally power my arm out.
Yeah.
Okay, tap.
Physical attributes play massive role as well as intellectual.
Of course.
And that's what, unfortunately, that's what traditional martial arts give false information that, that physical attributes doesn't count.
Of course it does.
And it's a
But at least we provide a platform where you're going to roll with a 56 kg chick and you're going to roll with a 105 kg guy. And guess what? You're going to have to manage those expectations. And that's the great thing about an aliveness sport.
That's it. You're testing yourself every day.
Yes.
So that's the biggest thing, is that you're rolling with multiple different weight categories, sizes, knowledge base every day, so you can adapt your game to that individual, because there's always a game. I mean, on the other hand, we've got guys like Kai Textera, technique. He's his whole thing is technique conquers all.
Oh, Caltera.
Yeah, Caltera. Yes. And he's beaten some big guys. Marcelo Garcia, Jeff Glover, the Mendez brothers. The list can go on. But how many guys have actually rolled with them that know, when I rolled with Marcelo, that guy was as strong as a gorilla.
Yes. Natural.
Yeah.
And he'd been training since, literally maybe 3 years old.
100%.
Probably.
So you get really good small guys, and I do believe technique conquers all.
Yes.
100%. But if I take a 70 kilo guy.
Well, imagine you against Andre Galvao.
100%.
Okay.
Knowledge base, you got to you equal.
Yes.
Okay. But if physically you're not equal,
no, he's a beast.
He's a beast. I mean,
he's an absolute beast.
Cyborg, all of those guys.
Yeah.
Guys say it's
okay.
fun.
You've recently rolled Felipe Pena.
Yeah.
Right. Felipe Pena's how big?
He's a big boy.
Yeah.
94 kilos.
Yeah.
He's a big boy.
And that's a different kettle of fish.
Look at all the top guys in the world right now. The Gracie families you think they're small? They are big humans.
Oh, no. Henna Gracie, who I've trained with in Chris Bright's club in PE, man, he's 6'3".
Yeah.
He's massive, 6'2", 6'3". He's massive.
Big boys.
Massive.
Everyone wants to watch the absolute divisions. Everyone wants to watch the heavyweight black belts.
Yeah.
Because those are the guys that are...
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's funny. In Marcelo Garcia days, you saw a lot of small guys enter absolute and actually win like Marcelo. Nowadays, you don't see.
Can't happen. The level's too high.
You hardly see Cobrinha or any of the top guys nowadays entering the absolute. That just doesn't work.
I mean, Cobrinha's my size. I love Cobrinha, but how do you do it? Gone are the days where Jeff Glover used to run around at Grappler's Quest and just smash everybody, and I mean, Jeff Glover's smaller than I am,
Exactly.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Look, that's the reality of life, and that's at a high level competition, but if we bring it back to South Africa, where you've got a very small percentage of the populace, right?
It's very young,
0.601, because I've done the maths before in Excel, and I opened up the decimals, percent of the population right now are brown and black belts. Okay, and that goes down to 0.40 when you start bringing purple and blue belts in, right? I mean, that's an elite segment of the population who has this knowledge, and I think that's why you've got so many coaches, even young, and I'm going to say not ignorant, but naive coaches, with the best intentions out there in the
100%.
world, with love for their students, opening these these camps and opening these Brazilian Jiu Jitsu clubs and striking clubs and all the rest of it. And it's just sad that, all I want to say to all these guys out there is, go find a coach. Just go find somebody who can give you that knowledge.
And that's my goal. No,
that is exactly
I always
so extrapolate on that.
Yeah, so I always have my team. I always have my club. But my biggest goal right now going forward is to be coaches of coaches, to educate coaches. I've got my system, the Coach Quan system, and now I basically want to pass it on. I want to be imprinted into people's martial arts DNA. My students, your students will have your martial arts DNA.
Absolutely.
My students, you will have my martial arts DNA.
I really do.
And that's what I want to do. I want to create quality coaches to create quality students, to create quality clubs. And people need help out there. And I've realized that. So that's why, starting soon, I want to do coach workshops, twice a month. And I don't want to be involved in politics. I don't care what club you're from.
Yeah. So I was actually just about to say that.
Yeah.
So some coaches sitting here listening to this, right? I hope all the coaches in South Africa are listening to this. But some coach is sitting listening to this and he's like, but I've got my lineage and I've got this or my branding and my name and that. Yeah. You don't care about that. No. What you're saying is you not saying that guys must come under Gracie Barra Sunninghill and be you saying, come to me and I'll be your personal coach. Yeah. That's what you say. Yeah. Because our relationship is extremely convoluted. Yeah. Right? I have 7 clubs, 6 in South Africa, 1 in Mauritius. I have my own branding that I built before I even knew that you were going to be my coach, just because it's what me and my high purple belts, John Paul Misa and Carl Hendricks came up with many years ago. Yeah. And now I've got to try and fit it, and it works so simply. Yeah. So let me tell everybody out there, right? I have my own brand. Yeah. I have my own identity. I have my coaches. So I've got 11 coaches in my group. Okay, you my coach. Yeah. Simple. I come to you. Yeah. You teach me, and you will grade me, and you will give me my black belt one day when you think I'm deserving. I hope it's before I'm 40. Just a number.
Just throwing it out.
I'm just joking. And it's as simple as that. Yeah. So you're saying if we were creating this coaches group, and let's say it's every 2 weeks, right? You're saying, how do I get involved in that? Not me, because I'm already involved. But I mean, how would somebody
either
get involved
contacting people that know me, like yourself, or just contact me straight directly? I mean,
what would I do? Would I speak to you and you'd say, okay, I know who you are. I know you're coaching. Yes, come through.
Come through.
Yeah, that's it.
Come through. Come see me. Come have a session with me. Come to a workshop. I'm totally over politics right now.
I couldn't agree more.
And right now, I know what I am good at. I know what I need to be doing. And like we said earlier, facts are facts. And I know my system. And I know my system works.
Yes.
And I've tested it not in South Africa. I've tested it overseas with some of the best coaches in the world. And all I want to do now is make coaches better. Because that is the goal, and that's the missing link in this country that we have.
I couldn't agree more, and I just hope, and I mean I've seen it happening, you know. So for argument's sake, you've got Gracie Barra Sunninghill, but okay, other than Art Suave, which is indirectly under you, right? Because you'll still grade some of my higher belts that I can't grade because I'm very true to the legalities of jiu-jitsu. I'm a purist, so I'd never sidetrack that. But over and above that, on your side, you've got how many Gracie Barras under you?
Well, we've got Gracie Barra,
You've got
Polokwane.
Correct. Now that's under
the vet.
Yeah. So you've got a guy that travels all the way from Polokwane. I've seen him training with you for
every week.
I know and I've seen him training, and all of a sudden he switched over to you.
Yeah.
Okay. And how great is that from an ego point of view?
That's it.
Yeah.
I see. I'm not here to force you, and that's why I say I don't care about the politics. I don't care who you are. I don't care about your lineage. Come to me, and I will prove myself to you. Okay. And then it's up to you to decide what you want to do. You are not forced to do anything. Absolutely. I am providing a service. That is it.
You know, I mean, even our relationship, you said to me, okay, Hans, come and train. And I was like, okay, fine, thanks. And I mean, there's a couple of discussions we had. And eventually, you know, I was like, okay, but Rich, you know, do we need to formalize this? It came from me, you know, because, and the only reason that I wanted to try and formalize, and we still haven't, other than the fact that you're my coach and I'm your student, is because I wanted to give you props. I mean, that's the only reason. You know, your guys are, and I understand why they're so loyal to you. You know, everybody said to me, you know, Hans, you know, what about this and what about that and lineage and this, and I'm like, Richie's my coach, and wherever you go, whatever you do, you my coach. That's it. Unless you leave the country, okay, different story. But that's it. You stuck with me. I'm sorry for you. And I'm from Spain.
But that's the thing, is that I don't force people into anything. I prove myself.
Yes.
And by proving myself and my system, you then make the decision. I have no right to force you to do what you want. Okay. Some people go, yeah, but that's pretty soft, and you know, you need to stand up in terms of, you know, you're high quality, and people need to like pay super high prices for your knowledge. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but right now in the situation that we're in, I know what to provide, and I will rather prove to people that I am this, and you can make the decision around that.
Correct.
Because like you said earlier on, a lot of people have an image of me and of a brand and so forth, but they don't actually know. They don't know because they've never done a session with me.
Yeah.
They've never had a conversation with me. They see me at events or listen to a podcast or so forth.
Dude, you're actually quite introverted.
Yeah. I'm very introverted.
Very much so. It's very interesting. Yeah. When I first spoke to you, very soft-spoken, and I mean, I see how you are with your guys, but I mean, even when we're rolling, you know, when you're tapping me, it's just a little soft giggle. I hate you. But I agree, and I say, I don't want to be a protagonist of one thing.
Yeah.
You know, this is my suggestion to everybody out there, even though I'm under you. Come and roll with Richie Quan.
Yeah.
Then go and roll with whoever you want to.
Whoever.
And now you've got a comparison. And that's what I did, you know, and then you can start making a choice. Even if somebody else does have a coach. So let's say, for argument's sake, I've got a coach who is really good in stand-up, but I want to come and get jiu-jitsu from you. I can do the same.
Yeah. You don't have to be put in a box.
I don't do any striking.
If you just want to do striking, then do striking with me. If you just want to do jiu-jitsu, do that. Whatever it is
you need.
I'm over politics. If you want my information, I'm providing it to anyone.
And also, you know, getting back to your conversation earlier about we should be paying very, very high prices for your knowledge. I completely agree. Also, having said that, you and I have been talking for the longest time, right? And through the likes of our clubs and through the likes of SABGF, we are slowly getting there, right? Growing jiu-jitsu in this country. And the sad fact of the matter is, you can't do that yet, but you will be able to charge. You know, I mean, I've just opened up my 7th club in Leidenburg, right? Under one of my blue belts, Saki Lombard, right? You know, I mean, he's a beast. So for all the guys in Leidenburg, you've got such a resource there, right? Okay, he's just opened up his club. Must I charge him 6,000 Rand a year affiliation fee? Are you kidding me? The moment I say that, he's gone. Why? He can't afford that. He's starting up his own business. He's just started a club. He's got a handful of students because, I mean, he literally started 2 or 3 weeks ago. How can I expect that? But if I, like you, look at the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is growing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and aliveness sports in this country, then I'd be willing to make the sacrifice for the long game.
That's it.
And I see the long game, and I think you see the long game, and I think that's where we clicked.
Only now. Been here teaching for over 10 years. Only now. My students are starting to open up their own gyms. You know, and that is the first stage of growth.
Absolutely.
And it will all start coming together.
Absolutely.
Eventually. But I always have to just remind myself, my job is a coach. That is my job, so that's what I must do.
Well, if you look at my coaches, my coaches come from long jiu-jitsu beforehand. You know, I mean, I'm also very fortunate. I started jiu-jitsu when I was 21, and my whole story is very different in terms of getting into it through Nathan Rotz. And back then, everybody was under Rodney King. I mean, he's the guy. And if it wasn't for Rodney King,
there wouldn't be martial arts in the country.
There wouldn't be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Not to this level.
Not to the level.
But I mean, we were the original pioneer gangsters. Gangsters, I say that very flippantly and actually sarcastically, because Nathan used to go to literally go to, Nathan started off as I think he was a white belt 2 or something like that when I started with him. And he'd go to Rodney, get taught because he knew nothing, come and teach us.
Pass on.
And if we walked out of the club without a blood nose, right, without a blue eye, without armbar arm, it was a good night. I mean, that was the wild west.
That's Wild West.
God, it was flipping crazy. You know, I mean, I look in comparison to what my students have now, and they just have no idea how good they've got it. You know, my highest belt was, and I mean, I've never rolled with Rodney, right? Well, even back then, but my highest roll was a white stripe 2 belt, a white belt 2 stripe. Now they get my guys get you and me, and we've got visitors, Chris Bright. I'm very fortunate, and Artswive is very fortunate that even despite our relationship, you know, we've always said to ourselves, our hashtag is hashtag Switzerland. You know, and we just want everybody to come. Chris comes, Nick comes, you come. We've just become this little center of no bullshit, no politics. Come and roll.
You can learn from anyone.
You can.
And
agreed.
That's why I say I would love a facility where there's in front of me 10 BJJ coaches, and students have the right to choose who they want to train with, because that dictates if the coach is doing his job.
Yes.
And me, I have no problem doing that. It's, you want to go train with 10 other coaches? Go, because I know what I offer. So go do it, and I encourage. Go overseas.
I
go
agree.
here. Go. And they do it.
You know, the thing is, I think the moment, and it's such a difficult thing for everybody, Rich, for everybody in life and for everybody in business, for everybody in sports, is scarcity mentality. You know, and I'll tell you why I'm allowed to have scarcity mentality, and it's so much easier for me than other guys, is because I don't make real money with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, this is for me is a labor of love. I have a job, I have a company, I have everything I focus on. Correct. So if a student leaves me, the only thing I have to worry about is the heartbreak. And God damn it, there's heartbreak.
100%.
Okay? But I actively say to my students, if you find somebody better than me, who's better suited to your jiu-jitsu style, because just because I think I'm good doesn't mean I'm suited. But go out there, try the guys. And 2 things. If you find somebody who's better suited to your style, leave me. And number 2, if I'm not giving you what you're paying for, because remember, there is a return on investment here. You are paying me to teach you, albeit a goddamn small amount. If I was in Joburg, I'd be charging 3 times the amount. But if I'm not doing that, leave me. Just as simple as that.
That's proper coaching.
Well, it makes me so accountable, you know,
for what you need to be doing.
For what I need to be doing, absolutely. And I can't preach that and then not live that. I need, and it's scary, because let me tell you, the amount of the amount of emotional investment that we place in these guys, man. When I'm cornering my guys at a jiu-jitsu fight, I mean, even there I want to die, you know, let alone EFC. I mean, JP doesn't know this, so for the first time, JP Kruger doesn't know this, so for the first time he's going to hear it. When JP Kruger lost to Bahati, right, I went on a 2-day bender. I completely smashed myself because of the guilt. And what I've realized, I mean, I get sweaty palms thinking about what I've realized is I'm not good in that environment, man. It's too much for me. You know, I can still deal with the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu fight. I can. But at that level, when I'm so emotionally invested, man, it killed me. It almost killed me. It's because I love him.
Yeah. But also because you invested in him, in his growth, and in your coaching ability. You understand? Because you blame yourself for it.
We do blame ourselves. I mean, even JP, when one of his guys loses, you know, he blames himself. And I blame myself. And if I didn't blame myself, guess what? Don't be a coach.
Coach is to prepare them for the situation to the best of the ability. You know, my biggest thing was when 4 years ago, Martin got heel hooked and snapped his ACL.
Oof.
Now, this was the first time I had ever seen a proper heel hook being implemented on an individual, and I became obsessed.
And was it at an EFC event?
At the EFC event.
Who did he fight?
Philippe. The Irish guy.
Okay, yes.
The Irish
and he got heel hooked?
And he got heel hooked, and it wasn't his fault, it was my fault, because we've not
worked it.
Not even worked it. It wasn't introduced into the program. You know, and
that's how your heel hook, well, that's how your leg game obsession started.
Yeah. And I've got many stories with all different situations, but like that.
Yeah.
You got to take the situation and learn from it, and become obsessive and fix it. And only now, you know, I feel that the program is complete in terms of all round.
Yes. And it takes time.
Yes, it takes a long time.
I mean, I'm very fortunate. I get it.
Yeah.
How fortunate.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, you talk about this. Let's talk about SABJJF, right? So, South African Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Federation puts on some really good comps, and I'd like to believe, my opinion is that we put on the best comps in Joburg.
Yes, no,
okay.
Hands down.
I don't understand why more coaches aren't taking advantage of that, because let me tell you what I'm doing. I'm doing two things. I'm cornering my students and I'm running the comp. But I'm watching very carefully what everybody else is doing. And I'm coming back at the end of a competition and going, right. So I'll give you an example. Dennis Ofsina's guys, which is of course Ascent, right? They play a phenomenal one leg X game, 2 heel hook, right? Or 2 straight, because you can go either way. And I watched his guys, him and Cliff Christian, yes. Decimate guys with that game. Okay, great. Now I get to go back, dissect it, understand it, play it, teach it. Why would you not, even if you're not competing, why would you not be taking advantage of that? What are the best guys? I mean, because let's be serious. I mean, some of the best clubs, I'd like to believe the biggest clubs in Joburg are all there. You know, Gracie Barra Sunninghill's there, Gracie Barra Lovo's there, Art Suave is there, the Rio guys come, Gracie Barra Little Falls. I'm just trying to think of the big guys. I don't want to leave anybody out.
Yeah, that's the guys here. You know, and obviously we've got like...
And then we've got competitors coming through from
Cape Town,
Pesfa, Cape Town, Durban. So it's great, but I'm saying, guys, we got 6 competitions this year. That's 6 opportunities for you to enter 2 or 3 guys. And while you're there as a coach, steal with your eyes, because it's going to increase the level, and guess what that's going to force us to do? Increase our level. I'm not scared of competition. I love it.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Isn't it?
That's the whole point.
I want to outdo you.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've got this really convoluted relationship. You are my coach. Yeah. I'm South African Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu president, you vice president. Yeah. So the roles switch. Yeah. And then when we compete at SABJJF, we take off our hats. All of a sudden we become basically you're my opponent. No, my opponent. Yeah. And my guy's fighting your guy. Yeah. And we're swearing at each other. Yeah. I say not really swearing, but and then whoever wins, high five, put on our SABJJF hats and we go again.
Yeah, exactly.
How great. You can only do that if you truly live no politics.
Yeah. That's it. You can't take things personally. You know, it's a sport at the end of the day.
Yeah. We can do the best for our students, but whoever wins, wins.
And right now we're in a situation that there's only a handful of us.
Exactly.
Only a handful of us. You know, we don't have as many black belts. We're in geographically, we're in a position in the world where we can't hop on a train, bus, or cheap airplane ticket and go to an IBJJF World Championships.
No. The closest
Open.
one to us is London.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Europe.
Yeah, or Europe.
Europe. You know, in Europe, every country in Europe has an open.
Yeah.
You know, in multiple different organizations. They have the access to that.
Having said that, Rich, you know, I'm playing the long game in terms of my jiu-jitsu, and the long game is right now, look, I never wanted to be a living, okay? And I'll quantify that from the word get-go. But I'm playing the long game in terms, in the next 10 years, I believe that this country's going to explode. And then the likes of the top guys in the open right now, including Israel and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, into that mix. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Brandon Newman, ching ching. But we're all poised then. And I mean, who are the students going to go to? They're going to go to the originals, the firsts, the guys who've been there for forever. So it is the long game we have to play.
It just takes time, man.
It just takes time.
The biggest thing is being patient, you know, having your system, educating yourself the whole time, and doing your job.
Putting your ego
aside.
In your pockets.
Yeah.
Massively so.
Yeah. And it's growing. You look at it, like you said, 2 years ago compared to now.
Yeah.
It's massive leaps and bounds. 2 years from now, 4 years from now, 6 years from now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just for me, the last year's growth was unbelievable. I mean, I spent 3 months of the year out of the country.
Yeah.
You know, this year's going to even be more. Everywhere, anytime that I go overseas, I find the best guys. You know, I was fortunate to be in Marcelo's school for quite a while. And
Marcelo Garcia.
Yeah. And the thing is, you know,
because I'm jealous.
It's just about that knowledge, man. It's about testing your systems, understanding knowledge, improving it the whole time.
And if a system fails, cool, fix it. And if it works,
don't be eager. I mean, we've sat down many times.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'll show you a system and you go, oh, this is amazing, but check this out as well. And I'll be like, that's amazing. Let's add that in. You know, and I'm not saying I'm freaking Yoda. I'm not a genius in reality. I just really love and study the sport. You know, I don't know everything, and I learn every day from my students to other coaches to everything else.
Yeah.
But
you've got to be fluid.
Yeah, you got to be adaptable.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest thing. Yeah.
I want to ask you a question because I'm sure a lot of guys have seen you talk about it.
Yeah.
You make reference to, and obviously I know the origins of this is from Jacko Willink.
Yeah.
But and for anybody who doesn't know who that is, go and Google who that is.
Yeah.
Right. You make reference to the 1%.
Yes.
What is that? Quantify that.
So it's funny. Jacko Willink, he was here last year and he's coming this year.
I'm so sad I missed him, and I'm so glad I get to see him this year because I really want to be involved in that. Rich, please.
You know, a lot of people look at him and Tim Ferriss as 1% theory, but the 1% theory is actually called the Kaizen theory.
Okay.
And it comes from the Japanese culture, and Kaizen means continuous growth. And that is where the Western world took 1% theory, and they developed, the Japanese culture developed this actually for big businesses. For instance, right now who uses it and carries on using it is Toyota.
Okay.
And continuous...
Makes sense considering the history.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And continuous growth, Kaizen, is actually embedded into Japanese culture now. And it's quite simple. It's basically saying, I need to work on something that I'm not good at every day, but a small amount. So for instance, if we put it into martial art terms, after a session, whatever you did wrong, you drill it for 10 minutes. You just do that small bit extra every day.
I like it.
Because what happens is guys get so eager, you know, it's the New Year's resolutions, and guys go all out, they go 100%, and then they bail and burn.
Yes.
But if I do something, for instance, I did this with reading with a few of the guys. You know, I like to read a lot and listen to podcasts and audiobooks and so forth.
You and me both.
Yeah, you're exactly the same. But a lot of people can't grasp knowledge of reading. So I tell them, I talk to them, I understand what they're interested in and everything. So I try and find a book that they'll be interested in. And I say,
absolutely, don't worry about what book it is, right? Worry about catching their interest. Yeah.
And I say,
reading's a habit.
It's a habit.
And it's a skill.
Yeah. I say, please read 5 pages a day.
That's
What is 5 pages?
Nothing.
10 minutes? Within 3 weeks, they're reading a chapter. Within 2 months, they finished their first book.
There we go.
And then they get into the next one. It's that starting out small and keeping that small.
So it's to sum it up, it's small incremental steps taken. Okay, so it's
over a long period of
correct,
time.
but first it's self-analysis.
Yes.
Right, so self-analysis in terms of where my deficiency may be, a con may be within my life. Once I've identified that, I take small, consistent steps every single day, right, in order to improve that.
That's it.
And then I'm going to assume at a later stage, self-analysis, changing the goals, and off we go.
So you can do it.
But I love, sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
Rich, but I love how you said the idea of when you finish the session, sit down and go, what did you do wrong? Because, I mean, that can be extrapolated to
Yeah.
when I finish a business meeting, figure out what I did wrong. When I finish a training session, when I finish a running session, figure out how I could have done it better.
If you're managing a team,
Yeah.
you understand what the 1% they need to be doing and so forth. Jocko uses it in extreme ownership in a different aspect, but yes, but it can change people's lives. For instance, fears. Everyone has fears.
Yeah.
But a fear is a fear because you don't understand and you don't have the knowledge to understand what it is, so you fear it.
Correct.
So if you take a fear and you add the Kaizen theory to it, within time, that fear doesn't become a fear anymore. For instance, myself, I had a fear of dogs, and so I started becoming training dogs and becoming a bite man, and I did my 1% with that.
Just quantify what a bite man is for the guys who don't know what that is.
We work in the sports of dogs, where basically
you got the big pad,
yeah,
right?
the big pad on the arm, and it's attack training, if you want to summarize it. Yeah. So that's basically what I did.
You're the proverbial sausage at the end of the dog.
Yeah, on the boxing bag for the dog.
There we go.
And understanding, and not only that, when you're with a dog trainer and understand the psychological aspects of the dog and how it works, you then don't fear it because you know what is actually going on. So you can do this with heights, you can do this with public speaking, you can do it with a whole lot of things. But the Kaizen theory, there's a lot of information and books out there on it, but in a short period, that's kind of the aspects and foundation of it. And for me, that is how I like to live.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, and it's definitely something that I'm going to look into, and it's definitely something I'm going to explore, because I have that same little obsessive sort of personality trait.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, I had my podcast with Roy Diesel last week, and
Yes.
we were obviously discussing the ketogenic diet, and in certain instances I was consciously asking questions that I may or may not have known the answer to. I may have been vague on the answer, but I really wanted, because there's so many questions out there, and I really wanted us not to speak at this high level, right, but at a lower level. Yeah. But you take the standard guy out there, man. I've spoken to 1 or 2 people, and even the standard guy out there was like, wow, there was a lot of information, and it's a bit overwhelming. And I'm going, Jesus, bro, you must listen to some of the podcasts I've heard when you like Dom D'Agostino and stuff. I mean, that's on another planet. It took me 3 months, Rich, October, so half of October, but November, December, Jan, right? It's taken me almost 3 months to get to the point where I could competently sit down and have a discussion with Rory Diesel. Yeah.
That's see, so exactly what you picked out, that's got to do with coaching. And that's what I mean. Coaching can be in a variety of aspects, because the linguistic words that you use,
correct,
can appeal to the audience and students that you have. So a perfect example, when I was at John Danaher School at Renzo Gracie in New York, after a while I stopped watching him and listening to him, and for a few sessions I started looking only at the students that were on the mat. And I realized that 95% of the students on the mat actually did not and could not understand him, because he is so intellectual, and the language he used
So high.
was so high that a lot of people couldn't connect with it. But they were there because he is John Danaher.
So what you're saying is, John Danaher Death Squad,
Yeah.
He's on another planet of coaching. And for anybody who hasn't watched these podcasts with Joe Rogan, do it.
Yeah.
Just do it just to see how freaky he is. God, he scares me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what you're saying is, as good as he is, you believe that he could be better if he changed his way of speaking.
Not change, just understand the audience a little bit better. But at the end of the day, that's not his responsibility right now, because people come to him, you know, and also he's got his group that he needs to work with.
Correct.
Now, if I walked in there and someone else walked in there and we're there for a week, why
change?
Why
I
change?
get what you're saying.
But then again, you get guys like Marcelo, who his language and the way he explains things is not that great at all. But if he shows you physically,
or for him, it's a language barrier.
Yeah.
I mean,
So the way he shows you physically in a role or so forth, that's on another level.
Yeah. Very, very, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. You know, I try in my Brazilian Jiu Jitsu coaching to be to not miss anything within a technique. So we have a series of foundations broken up into techniques, and each technique has, let's say for argument's sake, 5 steps, or a technique has 5 steps. I try not to miss one of those steps. But what you're doing is you are coaching me, and you have a certain way that you move, and you move your hip this way and you move your weight that way, and I try and pick up those nuances. I mean, even when we're rolling, oftentimes I forget to defend, and I start looking at what you're doing because I get so mesmerized with what it is you're doing, and then I'm like, oh shit, I better tap. But okay, when I'll typically use my brother who's a high blue belt, very technical, 4-stripe. I'll use him when I'm coaching, and Jared will pick up things that I don't even say. So I'll say, right guys, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, move here, do this, and then afterwards Jared will come around and go, all right, what Huntley didn't say to you was, he didn't say that at this point he shifted his weight just there. I don't even realize I'm doing it. I just, you know, so I'm trying to be the best coach, and yet I've got a blue belt who's turning around going, yeah, you didn't show that. Oh wow.
It's because body language and language is the best way to coach. Like you're saying, that your body language tells another story of what your linguistic language is doing.
Yes.
And once you connect the two, you're able to speak to a larger audience.
Correct.
And connect with that larger audience.
And I want to, and something that we are going to discuss, and I'm on Wednesday, I'm on Nicholas Gregoriadis' podcast.
Yes, amazing.
Very, very, very chuffed.
Cool.
Yeah, Jiu Jitsu Brotherhood podcast. And we're going to be discussing a few things, and one of them that I want to specifically discuss with him, and if we can, is coaching, and my theories that I've been developing over the last while, largely in part to you and Nick, and some of his podcasts, and the likes of Chris Bright, who I've dealt with. I want to add a third thing to that. So we've got the words, we've got the visuals, right? The doing, the feeling, right? Then we've got the practicing. Now I want to take a fourth and sort of add it to that, and I picked it up when I did my Jekyll and Hyde series of seminars, right? Which is completely everything mapped out on paper that the students can sit and look at, right? So they don't have to worry about where they are. They've got a roadmap in front of them. All they have to worry about is the technique. And I get to now reference back to where it was that I started, and even where it is that I'm going. And I think this is the missing link.
Structure.
So I was listening to Nick Gregorio to speak to Mike Bidwell, which is BJJ After 40. And what he's doing is he's putting big televisions up in his club, right? That's actually going to have the technique up that they're doing from different angles. And okay, so I don't have money for flat screens and stuff like that, but goddamn, I can write it down on a flip chart.
That's amazing.
And I can stick it up. And now what's
amazing.
The next step, and if we agree on this, and I mean, obviously we'll discuss it later, but now the next thing is we need to take the entire foundation series, write it down on flip charts, and then whatever we're teaching, have it up there.
So I have that in multiple notebooks. I've got a whole lot of notebooks over the last 6-7 years.
I have it in video.
Yeah, you got it on video.
Yeah.
So that is just information. Put that information into a medium that people can watch, read, study, and do it while you teach, and you've kind of got a good system.
You've got a good system, absolutely, and the students love it. The students get to progress. They get their return on investment, because at the end of the day, this is a business transaction, right? And it's our responsibility to build that return as best as we can.
Exactly.
Because if we're doing that, guess what? We're not going to lose guys, man.
Exactly.
They're going to stay with us. They're going to stay with us because the value's there.
Exactly.
And if we do lose guys, it's because they may be moving, and guess what? If they're high level belts, you're going to open up a new club with them.
100%. Exactly.
Well, that was my formula.
100%.
That was my formula.
Good.
So anyway, right. So what's up this year for Richie Quan?
Coaching programs, Gracie Barra Sunninghill, other Gracie Barras, lots of traveling for fights, lots of passing knowledge.
Yeah.
Staying out of politics.
We got a couple of interesting things coming up. March is Boyd fighting?
Yeah, Boyd's been. I think it was released already.
Right.
So Boyd's fighting Ego.
I knew, so I didn't want to say.
Former student, all of that. But I mean, it has to happen. So
and that's happening in March.
That's happening in March. I've got. So EFC fights. I've got quite a few. I've got Chad is signed with Brave. A big promotion for March.
That's right.
I've got.
And where's he fighting in? Jordan. Okay.
And then I've got Don, who's signed with the UFC. So that's
Don Madge?
Yeah, Don Madge signed with the UFC now. So
wow.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Okay, how incredible. Congrats, Don. Well done, dude.
Got the Mart on the brink of breaking through. You got JP. It's just the list can go on and on. But
Jiu-Jitsu
obviously we've got Marky Mark. Going to Abu Dhabi, try to get him to Pan Am's as well, just kind of get him everywhere. The white belts in the SABJJF.
Correct. So we've got SABJJF has got 6 competitions this year, 3 legs of gi and 3 legs of no gi, culminating in obviously the champion at the end of the year. So that's going to be cool, based in various locations in Joburg. But what's great is, other than our October date needs to change because it conflicts with one of our parent affiliation, Sports Jiu-Jitsu International Federation's Worlds. Okay, but other than October Day changing, our calendar's out there, right? And it's available to the entire year's calendar's done, which is great. And I mean, we're going to do this every year now. Even we learn. Yeah. So there's a lot happening this year.
A lot happening. Probably I'm going to try to go to Worlds. Myself and Norm will try to go to Worlds. We might
Worlds where? Which Worlds, first of all?
The only Worlds, IBJJF Worlds.
Okay, IBJJF Worlds. In
San Diego. No. San Diego or LA.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll go meet the professor there.
When is it?
Watch it March.
Oh, is it March?
So we've got to kind of pick and play.
Nick has invited me to the States in, October, November, to go to Las Vegas and do Masters Worlds with him. So
hopefully I can join you there. That would be amazing.
Hey Nick, got room for 2.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Look, Rich, I know we've got to the end of our time. Boo, it's been such an absolute pleasure having a chat with you. Thank you for being here. For those of you guys who don't know, and very quickly, Richie, obviously I needed to have Richie on the podcast because I've been dying to have you on the podcast, but you actually going to come in when I start speaking to different MMA guys, and you're going to be involved in the podcast.
I'll be involved on the odd occasion. Whatever needs to be done, I'm here to help. So
how cool.
I'm going to be involved.
So we got Boyd coming up on the podcast soon.
Yeah.
And you'll be part of that. Yeah. And that'll just before his fight. So guys, stay tuned. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Richie, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Cheers.
Ciao.